Hi, today's question comes from Bradley. He runs a nutritional support group and he reached out to me because he wanted to know what information I could share in regards to helping his members with diabetes. So I'm going to give him my 3-step natural approach at helping people with type 2 diabetes. Diabetes is so important to get under control. It's a leading factor to cardiovascular disease. Cardiovascular disease is the number one killer for all men and women in America. So diabetes, super important to get under control. Real briefly, diabetes is high blood sugar. The way our bodies work, when we have high sugar, insulin is needed as a key to open the cell up, and it pushes the sugar into our cell. If we do not have enough insulin to do that, that's called type 1 diabetes, and those people need insulin on a daily basis. Now, no matter what diet or exercise type 1 diabetics do, they still need insulin. My program is really for type 2 diabetics. Type 2 diabetics have enough insulin. The problem is the insulin and the cell are not connecting properly. The cell has basically tuned out the insulin and has become insensitive to the insulin and not responding properly, allowing for blood sugars to rise, causing type 2 diabetes. Now, why does this happen? I'll give you an example. If someone yells at another person every single day, eventually the other person is going to tune that one person out. They're just not going to respond anymore. The same thing with the body. If we have a high sugar diet or lots of processed carbohydrates, eventually the sugars keep going up, the insulin levels keep going up, and the cells stop responding to the insulin, causing type 2 diabetes. So how do we fix it? I'm going to give you my 3-step approach. The good thing also is type 2 diabetics make up 95% out of all diabetes in this country. So the type 1 diabetics, the ones that don't have enough insulin, there's such a small percentage that really we could almost eradicate diabetes in this country if we follow this 3-step simple program. Number 1, obviously diet. So let me give you some dietary suggestions, and then we can move on to the other steps. First of all, because high sugar, processed carbohydrates raise sugar up really quickly, jack up the insulin, and create this negative imbalance, we need to lower high sugar foods and processed carbohydrates. We need to replace that with lean, healthy proteins such as grass-fed meats, organic turkey and chicken. We want vegetables, high fiber fruits versus, say, dried fruits, which don't have a lot of fiber. We want nuts, seeds, legumes, wild-caught salmon, so a lot of omega-3 essential fats. So we want foods like that are low on what's called the glycemic index. So anyone can look up on the internet what the glycemic index is. Basically, it's a scale of how it rates a food's effect on someone's blood sugar. So if it's really high, what I think is high is about 50. If it's over 50 or maybe 55, then that particular food is going to raise your blood sugar too quickly, and we want to stay away from those foods. Anything under 55 or 50 then is a lot more manageable for our body, and our body's sugar and insulin levels are going to rise much slower and not have the negative impact. So look up glycemic index and stay with foods that are less than 50 or 55. Those foods are going to be obviously fats, proteins, and when it comes to carbohydrates, stay with carbohydrates, again, that are under 50 or 55 on this glycemic index. They're going to tend to be high in fiber. Fiber slows down digestion, and it slows down the release of insulin. And again, if the insulin is too high on a continual basis, that's what will cause these cells to tune the insulin out and cause the type 2 diabetes. Now, here's what's interesting. Different types of foods can have different glycemic indexes. So real quick, instant oatmeal has a super high glycemic index versus conventional steel-cut oatmeal, which is lower than 50 and definitely healthier for the type 2 diabetic. When it comes to fruit, we want to stay with apples and berries and cherries, fruits that, again, have a little bit more fiber and lower on the glycemic index versus bananas or dried fruits like raisins that are higher on the glycemic index. So it's not eat fruit or don't eat fruit or eat this grain or don't eat that grain. Make sure that you're having healthy carbohydrates that are high in fiber, low on the glycemic index, and don't be tricked. Wheat bread, whether it's white bread that's been processed or even whole wheat bread, both are high on the glycemic index. So just because something is whole grains doesn't mean it is good for a type 2 diabetic. All right, that's diet. The second thing we want to focus on is stress. Now, a lot of people right away are going to be like, what are you talking about? We're talking about diabetes. I thought this is all dietary. Not necessarily. When someone is under a lot of stress, we release something in our body called cortisol. Now, cortisol takes the protein in our body and makes sugar out of it. So no matter what your diet is, if you're under a tremendous amount of stress and you're releasing a lot of cortisol, your body is going to jack up the blood sugar. As the blood sugar keeps going up, the insulin levels are going to respond. And if it happens too often, the cells are going to tune that insulin out and we're going to get type 2 diabetes. So we need to drive the stress down. Here's my 3-pronged approach for getting down stress. Number 1, meditation. Number 2, exercise. And number 3, I make my own natural adrenal support formula called Relax, which has herbs and specific nutrients in there that drive cortisol down, allows the body to function healthier, and supports the adrenal glands. You take it at night, and it really facilitates a great night's sleep. So that's my 3-pronged approach for dealing with stress and helping lower that cortisol, which will help type 2 diabetes. Now, the third thing that I like are supplements when it comes to diabetes. There's, I think, 5 supplements that I really recommend mostly. Number 1 is magnesium. The type of magnesium I like is magnesium taurate. I would do roughly between 1 and 500 milligrams a day. The second supplement I like is chromium. Chromium, you should be doing about 200 micrograms 3 times per day. The third thing I like is fish oil. Omega-3 fats in general are very good at, again, helping the cell communicate with insulin, which is what the problem with type 2 diabetes is all about. So make sure your essential fats go up. I like omega-3 fish oil. If you want to get your essential oils from wild-caught salmon or flaxseed walnuts, you can. But as a supplement, fish oil can be very effective. The fourth thing I like is a supplement, but it's also a spice, cinnamon. Cinnamon is a wonderful spice at boosting up the ability to process sugar and allowing for better communication between the cell and insulin and driving down blood sugar. And then the fifth supplement, which not a lot of people know about, it's really my number 1 supplement for type 2 diabetics, is alpha lipoic acid. That is a wonderful nutrient to get the cells to communicate better with the insulin. I would do, as a type 2 diabetic, 600 milligrams per day, and I think that would have a tremendous benefit for you. So those are the 5 supplements. Also, decrease the cortisol and the stress using meditation, exercise, again, my PM adrenal support formula, Relax, and then stick with a healthy diet, lots of essential fats, lean protein, lots of vegetables, high fibrous fruits. When it comes to grains, make sure that they're under 50-55 on the glycemic index. And using that 3-step approach, you're going to see wonderful benefits when it comes to type 2 diabetes. Now, here's the beautiful thing. Diabetes can be measured using a blood test called hemoglobin A1C. So, go to your doctor, get a hemoglobin A1C test, and make sure that it's under 5.7. If it's under 5.7, you're doing a great job. Anything above 5.7, then you want to really make sure that you're fine-tuning your program, listening to all the steps I talked about, and keep really strict till you get that hemoglobin A1C number under 5.7. Now, if you've been doing this for a couple months and you go and your hemoglobin A1C number is still a little high, don't worry so much yet because it's a 3-month sugar reading. So what you want to do is every 3 to 4 months, go back to your doctor, get the hemoglobin A1C, so this way you can monitor where you are in your progress and see how well you're doing. All right? So that's the info on diabetes. I really hope this helps. Obviously, if you have any further questions, always feel free to reach out, and I hope you have an amazing night.